and girls, you can go ahead and get your reading anthology. We're going to be doing some stories out of here, probably my few favorites that we have left in the book to read. We're going to start off with the story A Quest for Tree Kangaroos. And today I'm going to read the story out loud to you, and I really want you to just listen and follow along as I read. There's a lot of interesting vocabulary, so pay close attention to it. And Mrs. Evans is not going to be able to pronounce it all correctly because we're going to be going to a country I assume most of you are not very familiar with. We're going to be reading about animals in Papua New Guinea. So think in your southern hemisphere over by Australia. A little north of Australia is where Papua New Guinea resides, a place I'd love to visit. But as we read today, you're going to be introduced to a tree kangaroo, which I had never actually heard of until I read this story. And they're really interesting. This book is informative. And so an informational text, kind of like the cougar one we read a while back, is filled with facts. So sometimes it can be hard to understand exactly what's going on because it can just feel like fact, fact, fact coming at you. So I'll try to clarify as we go, and it's really important you have your book open so that you can look in your text too to try and understand. Our biggest thing I want you to notice is that informational text is filled with cause and effect relationships. So if you have your book right now, go ahead and open it up to page 172. We're not going to read this page because we've talked a lot about cause and effect, but for example, think one thing in the story is going to happen, which leads to another. Let's put it on our real life. You're getting digital school right now because a cause happened, an event happened. We're quarantined from our mayor. And what is the effect of that? So our mayor quarantines us. Now what's the effect? We have to do some digital learning. It doesn't necessarily mean good or bad. Cause-effect relationships just kind of help show you how a story can build upon itself, and especially when the events are true. So this story actually happened, and it's pretty cool. The author of this story and the photographer of this story went on the expedition with the scientists. So if you don't love science, but you like learning about it, the photographer and the author aren't scientists. They're a writer and a photographer, but they get to experience what a real life scientist would experience. So it's kind of cool. There's different jobs and roles in every expedition. Just food for thought. Quickly before we read the story, I want you to look at page 173. Just make sure you know the word domesticated. If an animal's domesticated, that means it's been trained to live at your home or trained to live somewhere other than the wild. And so there's tons of domesticated animals in the world, but there's way more species that are not domesticated. For example, let's read this paragraph and hopefully that makes sense. Wild animals are those that have not been domesticated or tamed by humans. They include squirrels and pigeons you see every day, and the exotic animals that live in faraway jungles and deep ocean waters. Many wild animals are endangered. Their numbers are so low that they might disappear completely. So scientists, and specific ones, spend a lot of time figuring out which animals are endangered and how they know if they are. If you are bored at all this week, you could try and Google search what deems an animal endangered. Like, how do you know if it's endangered? How many of it have to be living to make an animal endangered? This story does not touch upon that. But different things cause endangerment. Climate change, loss of habitat, overhauling of forests contribute to the decline in an animal population. Some of you might be thinking, well, why does it matter what happens in Papua New Guinea? I think it matters deeply. We need to figure out why, though. I'm not going to say why I think it matters, but it's not going to matter like immediately in your life. But what could the effects be of different animals and species going extinct? So the tree kangaroo lives in Papua New Guinea. And let's just jump in. So go ahead and flip. Ooh. Page 174. If you're just getting with us, Make sure you're on page 174. Again, an informational text. I already talked about that. That's our genre. These pictures are all primary source photos, meaning they were actually taken by somebody. So it's the real tree-roo. They're pretty cute, I think. They look way different than I would have guessed what a tree kangaroo looks like. Maybe some of you know about them. As we read today again, pay close attention to cause-effect relationships and try to really understand what this story is showing and telling us. At the end of the week, you are going to have a fun assignment that you have to do where you get to brag about all of your knowledge about the tree kangaroo. So make sure you understand as we go. If you're confused today, we're going to read this story 3 times this week. This is the only time I'm going to read it to you. So pay close attention and notice that I'm going to stumble on some of the words too. I'm going to zoom in a little because Mrs. Evans doesn't want to squinch the whole time. In lush and colorful Papua New Guinea, there lives an elusive animal called the Matschie's tree kangaroo. Biologist Lisa DeBeck has been fascinated by the tree-roo since seeing her first one in a Seattle zoo more than 20 years ago. Now she leads a research expedition to Papua New Guinea, accompanied by a team of scientists and local guides with the goal of locating Matschie's tree kangaroo in the wild and fitting them with radio collars so they can be tracked and studied. Lisa and the others hope their studies will help them better understand and protect these special creatures. The team is joined by author Cy Montgomery and photographer Nick Bishop, who are documenting the journey. The group has arrived at their destination and set up camp. They have seen signs that some tree kangaroos are nearby in the forest and are hoping to meet one soon. See how it kind of sounds like a news story? Informative text kind of does that. So we're jumping in to hear what this team of expeditionists find. Pay close attention to the pictures and the captions. I know a lot of times we skip over those things, but right here is one of the tree-roos, and the cool winds have dwarfed some parts of the forest, so the forest is only 20 feet high in some areas, which definitely would affect some of the tree kangaroos' habitats. All right, and this green text is where it's kind of just like foreshadowing what's about to happen. Lisa is washing her clothes in the river when we get the news. Tree-roos, Kali hauls, 2 of them. One of the trackers has run back to camp to tell us. The 2 tree kangaroos are klatsuas and still up a tree. While Holly and Christine read the medical equipment, the rest of us race and after the tracker to see. Klatsu. Did anyone get confused there? Notice this little baby 1? That's just giving you an indicator to go down to your footnote. We're going to learn the language, well, part of the language. Tok Pisin is what they speak in parts of Papua New Guinea, and Klatsu means close to. So one of the trackers has run back to camp to tell us. The 2 tree kangaroos are Klatsuas, so are close to us and still up a tree. While Holly and Christine ready the medical equipment, the rest of us race after the tracker to see. If you're wondering what the tracker is, pay close attention. I'll explain it in a little bit. We run past the tree kangaroo house, past the kunai, down a trail, and then into the trackless bush. Will the tree kangaroo still be there when we get there? It takes us nearly an hour to reach the site, when the long golden tail hanging down from the branches of the soraria, and then the animal to whom it belongs, a gorgeous red and gold tree kangaroo sitting 80 feet above us, looking down with ears pricked forward. I can't believe it, Lisa says. And then, in the tree right next to this tree kangaroo, we see another tail, leading to another tree kangaroo. Big Pella Piccanini, one of the trackers exclaims. Piccanini is Tok Pisin for child or baby. And Big Pella, you guessed it. If this is her baby, it's a big one. So Big Pella means big, and Piccanini means child or baby. So I just want to clarify one thing. If you've never been to rainforests, I have only been to one. 80 feet is really high up. Think of standing underneath a basketball hoop. That's 10 feet up. So times that by 8. So these trackers are standing on the ground and they're looking straight up about 80 feet and they see these golden tails hanging down. And they're really excited because they've traveled all the way to Papua New Guinea to try and find these very rare species. The trackers are most likely Papua New Guinean people helping scientists with their expedition. Please use these footnotes a lot. Kunai, when we saw it up here, kunai was some of the grass right? We run past the tree kangaroo house, past the kunai. Oh, sorry, it's not. That's the area where Lisa and her team set up camp. And they named that area for the kind of grass the camp was in. So, like Mrs. Evans, again, had no idea what kunai grass was before this. And Sararia, the tree kangaroos love to eat the shoots of this flowering tree. So at some point, I'm going to ask you to look up a Sararia tree to see what they actually look like. Imagine telling a Papua New Guinean about an evergreen tree. They might not have those in their rainforest. And their teachers would say, go look up what an evergreen tree is, where we all know what an evergreen tree is, where Papua New Guineans most likely know what Sararias are. So anyways, they're down there. They see two beautiful tails. Let's see what happens next. Look at that beautiful animal up there. All right, I'm going to keep reading. This is the miracle of doing work here, Lisa says. They are so elusive, and then you finally find them. The whole field season is riding on these moments. So, like, they get so excited, you guys. They do all this work, probably hours and hours and hours of work. And then when they finally see the golden tail, they're like, yes, we found one. The men had left camp that morning feeling lucky. It was sunny and warm, Gabriel recalled. So now they're going back to retell what happened. So, like, imagine waking up in the morning, you haven't seen a tree root, and you just really want to find your tree root that you want to research. And so here they're telling what happened. So the men, they had left camp that morning feeling lucky. It was sunny and warm, Gabriel recalled. A good day for the tree roots to come out and warm themselves. They changed their strategy. For the first 3 days, we were traveling more than 1 kilometer each day to find tree roots. I had wanted our presence to drive them closer to camp. So we decided today to try closer, and it worked. The men spread out. One tracker decided he would look for a plant that the tree kangaroos love to eat. It grows high on the tree branches and is easy to spot. The underside is brown and the top is green. He found one in a tree, but no tree kangaroo. He scanned the next tree over, the Sararia, and there was the tail. Immediately, the tracker explained through Gabriel, I barked like a dog that would keep her up in the tree. Everyone else heard the barking and knew what happened. Everyone ran and admired the roo. We all stood looking about for 2 minutes, and then someone noticed there was another tail. Why did he bark like a dog? What do you think the tree roo might do when, like, he hears, like, woof, woof? And I'm sure he barked louder than that. Do you think he kind of wanted to? I would guess some of you would be raising your hand in a normal classroom. He probably wanted to scare the tree roo a little, so he didn't move, so that everyone else could come look. And so imagine then everybody else goes and looks and they see another tail. We photograph and videotape and watch the 2 tree kangaroos for 10 minutes. Now to get the animals down. So they see the roos and now they want to catch them. The trackers have been thinking about this puzzle. Shortly after they spotted the animals, they began to cut sticks and brush to build a low fence they call an im around the tree. If the tree kangaroo leaps down and starts to hop away, the im will slow him down. One of the trackers takes off his tall rubber boots. Barefoot, he begins to climb a smaller tree next to the Sararia. Within 2 minutes, he's as high as the tree kangaroo. Joel, do you see where she is? Asked Lisa. Joel has the roo in his binoculars. She's still there, he assures. But the tree kangaroo isn't happy to see a human approaching. She climbs another 30 feet up to get away. If she jumps, it's a 110-foot drop. So they're trying to get closer to the roo, but the roo isn't wanting that. And just so you know, those of you animal lovers out there, these scientists aren't wanting to harm them, but it might feel a little scary at times. Suddenly, she leaps, her forearms outstretched. She drops 30 feet. She grabs a smaller tree on the way down, and now she begins back down the tree. She's almost to the ground when one of the trackers grabs her by the tail and puts her in the burlap bag. Pickaninny, pickaninny, the men call. The other tree kangaroo is 65 feet up in a decaspermum tree, and they don't want him to get away. The tree kangaroo lets go of the branch like an acrobat. He catches the vine with his front paws, turns himself around, and lands on the ground on his feet. One tracker holds the chest, another holds the back legs, and another man holds the front. It's only now that we realize the baby is a full-grown adult male. So remember earlier, the one tracker thought it had a pickaninny, a big pella, a big baby. They were wrong. It wasn't a baby, it was a male. Mana Mary, the trackers say, this pair is no mother and baby, but a grown-up male and female on a tree kangaroo date. By 10:10 a.m., both tree kangaroos are in burlap bags, heading to the camp. 25 minutes later, we're all back at camp, where Holly and Christine have set up the exam table. A picnic table built from saplings lashed with vines. They've laid out medical supplies and sample vials, measuring tools and data sheets. Each tree kangaroo will be given medicine to make it sleep, while the team puts on the radio collar and conducts a health exam. We want to find out as much as we can, because so little is known about tree kangaroos. Every detail is important. First, while the animals are in their burlap bags, they are weighed. The female weighs 6.4 kilograms, that's about 24 pounds, with the bag. The scientist will make sure to subtract the weight of the bag alone later. The male, with the bag, weighs 8 kilograms. And here's a picture of the man who was climbing the tree. Joel notes the temperature and humidity too. It's 56.2 degrees Fahrenheit, 81% humidity. Let's measure the male's neck to make sure the radio collar will fit on him, says Lisa. But let's do the female first. With the female, we'll have the same priorities, Holly tells the group. We'll measure the neck, put on the radio collar, insert the ID chip, pluck fur for more testing, check the pouch, see if she has a baby. This is our first time we're learning that these are marsupial animals. They're pouch animals, like a classic kangaroo we've heard of. So maybe that's where the name comes from. We've also learned they're going to put these animals to sleep. Does anybody know the word when you put an animal to sleep, or a human to sleep, as a matter of fact, to do surgery on them? It's a big word, but it's a word we should learn. Pay attention, it might be in this book. We hope to find out as much as we can while the animal is asleep. But anesthesia can be dangerous. That's why we'll be carefully watching how often she breathes in and out and how fast her heart is beating during the procedure. We'll have to work fast. Everybody will help. Pay close attention to that word. The page before, they said they have to put the tree roos to sleep. On this page, they don't say they have to put the tree roos to sleep. But they said they want to find out things about the animal. There's no way the animal would let a scientist pull and poke at it without it, fighting back. So they have to use this. So now think to yourself, what does anesthesia mean? Christine will call out pulse and respiration every 5 minutes, says Holly. Is everybody ready? Do you have the radio collar? Lisa asked Gabriel. Gabriel's holding a leather collar, much like one a dog might wear. Instead of metal tags, though, it has a little box of waterproof plastic. This contains a transmitter powered by a square battery and outfitted with an internal antenna. Each radio collar also has a computer chip. Without knowing it, the tree kangaroos will be sending their position not only to the scientists tracking them on the ground, but also to satellites circling thousands of miles above Earth. At 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. times, the roos are likely to be in the trees and the weather is likely to be less cloudy. The satellites read the animal's exact position on Earth's surface. They download this information to the chips in the collars, and this data can be transferred to a computer when the collar automatically falls off after 5 months. And the whole thing weighs less than half of a pound. Now that's pretty fascinating. Read that paragraph slowly when you reread this text tomorrow. There's one of the roos, and see they're giving it oxygen and being as careful as they can. Do you have the screwdriver to put the collar on? Asked Lisa. Yes, says Gabriel, holding the squirming bag on his lap. We're ready. But the tree kangaroo isn't. Gabriel talks to the animal in the bag. Wait, come here, he gently says. And then to 2 trackers. Hold him! Soon a pink nose pokes through a hole in the bag. It's 10:55 a.m., and Holly places the mask on the nose. A paw comes out through the hole, but within 45 seconds, the tree kangaroo relaxes. The anesthesia is working. She's asleep. Out comes the kangaroo. Thermometer, Holly requests. The kangaroo's body temperature is similar to a person's, 97.1 degrees. Respiration is 32. What do you think respiration means? Think about what that might mean. That means she's breathing 32 times a minute. That's healthy. Another food for thought. How many times does a healthy human breathe per minute? Holly leans forward to listen to the heart through her stethoscope. For 5 seconds, she counts the beats. She wants to calculate the beats per minute. Heart rate is 16 times 12. You do the math, she tells Joel, who is recording everything on the data sheet. Meanwhile, Gabriel is putting on the collar. Make sure the collar is comfortable but snug, says Lisa. Yesterday, Christine discovered that Ombum had taken his off and left it on the floor of his cage. This is our first time hearing about Ombum. Remember, follow that little footnote. A tree root that was examined earlier and is being treated for an injured leg. So these aren't the first roos they found. So we're learning that they are tracking several. Do you know your resting heart rate? That is something else. If you want to figure out, you can. What's a good resting heart rate? You might be able to see how many times your heart's supposed to beat per minute. It's different for a child versus an adult, and another thing you could look up. Holly puts in the microchip and Joel records its number, 029274864. I'm going to do a pouch check, says Holly. Meanwhile, the other scientists measure everything they can as fast as they can. Pouch is empty, says Holly. Now for the vitamin mineral shot. This is it, says Lisa. She calls an end to the exam. Because he was injured, Obum's exam took much longer. But we don't want to subject this tree kangaroo to the anesthesia any longer than necessary for safety's sake. So we hear about Obum again. So they obviously have a roo that's injured, so he needed to go under anesthesia longer than these two roos they just got. Because anesthesia, the goal is to not be put to sleep longer than necessary for scientists or doctors to perform surgeries. Holly removes the face mask and quickly checks the teeth. She's coming to. It's 11:06. Put her in the bag, says Lisa. Tail first so she can sit. They name her Tess in honor of my dog, a border collie who died last year at age 16. The new Tess, rests in her bag on the tracker's lap while we prepare for the mail. 11:20 a.m. Anesthetic machine, gas ready, radio collar, Holly asks. And is the other roo okay? Okay, answers the team. We're ready. The team works fast while the tree roo is anesthetized. Sorry, it's hard for me to say. Each collar allows scientists to track a tree kangaroo for several months. That's a picture of one of the real collars that they would wear, and then it would beam up to the satellite. Gabriel unties the top of the mail's bag, and immediately the burlap boils with movement. He's doing somersaults in the bag, Gabriel reports. It's all he and Joshua can do to hold the roo. Through the bag, the male grabs one man's glove and pulls it off. He bites another tracker on the finger. Now 4 men are struggling. I've got his head here, says Gabriel, but I can't get it out. But the nose is right here. Through the burlap, Holly delivers the anesthetic. Oh, but he's tough, says Gabriel. Finally, the bag stops wiggling. At 11:30 a.m., the male is lifted out of the bag and laid out on the table, and the team goes to work. 17 times 12 is the heart rate, Holly tells Joel. 22.7 circumference of the necks. Think of math, distance around. Here's the collar. Let's put it on. Respiration is 20, says Holly. Now we'll take his temperature. Next the chip, and after that, we'll go for the hair. Everything is going like clockwork. Then Christine warns. Respiration slowing. That's it. Let's pull the mask off, says Lisa. It's 11:37. His ears are twitching. Let's get him back in the bag, says Holly. It's all over in just 10 minutes. Great work, says Lisa. So the scientists did all of that in 10 minutes. And they really want to watch the respiration to make sure the tree root is breathing enough to stay alive while it's under anesthesia. Noon. We're at the tree kangaroo house. The men have cut fern fronds and lined the 2 apartments inside with soft, moist carpet. They've used ferns to screen the wall between the new pair and Obum, so the animals won't upset each other. Obum looks calm, though his leg is no better. He is now taking banana leaves from Christine's hand. We all sit quietly while one of the trackers opens the cage door. Tess climbs out of the bag and scurries up a perch. She regards us with interest but no fear. Lisa has named the male Christopher in honor of my pig, who grew to 750 pounds and lived to age 14. So we have Ombum, Christopher, and Tess. The kangaroo, Christopher, rushes out of his bag and climbs to the highest perch. Joel and Gabriel want to make sure the collars are working, so they have brought their radio receivers along to check. Each animal has its own frequency, almost like a phone number. If Joel wants to tune in to Tess, he dials up channel 151.080. Christopher's channel is 150.050. Both collars work fine. We're all delighted. One tracker is so enthusiastic he wants to go out and hunt for more tree kangaroos this very afternoon. But the hotel is full, says Lisa. The hotel, she's being sarcastic. What's the hotel? Yeah, the cages that they made for the tree roos that they caught. And remember, the tree roos are not domesticated, so they don't want them to become like pets. They just want to study them and then release them. Since Christopher and Tess are healthy enough to return to the wild, they will be released tomorrow. For now, though, the cage has all 3 kangaroos it can hold. We all shake hands, hug, and smile. Everyone is beaming with a mixture of excitement, exhaustion, and relief. The first collared male, Matchie's tree kangaroo, says Gabriel. History. All right. So that's kind of a long story. I just want you to take a minute to kind of think about it. Maybe think of some questions you have and want answered. Tomorrow, I want you to reread the story again by yourself. And then you're going to have to answer some deeper comprehension questions in a Google Doc that Ms. Kelsenberg and I give to each of you. You can always ask us questions, but make sure as much as you can you practice out loud reading of this story and tackle some of that vocabulary. Thanks, boys and girls.